What can I say? Why? Why? Why did he hurt my daughter? Why? Why? Why?
Has no one been looking for Carol all these months? What really happened?
What was said this morning was really disgusting. Disgusting. They threw mud at my niece.
I don't want to know, it's too awful. It hurts me too much.
Carol Angie Deborah Maltesi was born on December 23, 1995, in Monza, Italy, a city known for the Italian Grand Prix at the Monza National Autodrome. Her father, Fabio, was Dutch, and her mother, Giuseppina, was Italian. After her parents divorced in 2006, Carol stayed with her mother, while her father returned to the Netherlands. They moved to Sesto Caland, where Carol finished school and developed interests in horseback riding and dancing. Despite the distance, she remained close to her father and often visited him in Amsterdam, sparking her love for travel. She even lived in Australia for a few months through a school program. In college, she attended a technical university in Busto Arsizio, studying industrial design. By that time, Carol had become an attractive woman and started dating Marco, who was a year ahead of her, in January 2015. They traveled together and created wonderful memories, especially with the birth of their son, Carlos, in February 2016. To help financially, Carol left school to work as a sales clerk while Marco did design projects remotely. They were lucky that Marco's parents welcomed them into their home in Verona and helped take care of Carlos, allowing them to focus on providing for their family. However, by the end of 2019, their relationship had run its course, and they decided to separate. Marco and his family kept custody of their son, while Carol moved out and rented an apartment in Rescaldina. She visited Carlos every other weekend to show her love. However, when the pandemic hit in early 2020, Italy went into lockdown on March 9. With non-essential stores closed, Carol lost her job, which she relied on to support her son and her ill mother. She tried to make money online by sharing posts about her past travels and her life in isolation, but she couldn't attract enough viewers to earn a living. Even though she received compliments for her looks, a subscriber encouraged the beautiful woman to join a specific content platform. Needing money, Carol signed up as Charlotte Angie. She began sharing photos and short videos, quickly gaining a following and earning nearly £10,000 a month. This also drew attention from photographers and directors in the adult entertainment industry, who hired her for shoots and films. Throughout this, Carol hid her income source from family and friends. When they eventually found out, she faced harsh criticism, and some friends abandoned her. Despite the pain, she persisted, seeing her work as a form of performance art that she shouldn't feel ashamed of. Her goal was to earn enough to buy a home and support her son. In October 2020, Carol met Davide Fontana online. He was a 42-year-old bank employee and an Instagram food and travel influencer. With a talent for photography, he convinced Carol to model for him. They met for a photo shoot at a hotel and felt an immediate connection. Despite being married, Fontana pursued Carol and separated from his wife of 20 years on March 19, 2021. He moved into an apartment next to hers so they could work together on her online content. They created material based on subscriber requests, which earned them a lot of money. As Carol's popularity increased, she began traveling more for work, which led to the end of her relationship with Fontana. He accepted this, continuing to help her by filming and editing her content. In one of her overseas projects in September 2021, she met Salvatore Galdo, an actor from Prague who worked in the same industry. After working on a few projects, they soon developed feelings for each other and began a relationship. By the end of 2021, Carol had already saved enough money to fulfill her dream of owning a house. She had already looked at some properties in Verona, hoping to live closer to her son as she slowly moved away from creating adult content. The new year was just around the corner, and her excitement for her new life was palpable. In addition, she and Salvatore got engaged. The couple was looking forward to traveling together to France on January 15, after which Carol planned to permanently leave Reskuldina to alternately reside between Prague and Verona. However, on the night of January 11, 2022, Salvatore received a WhatsApp message from Carol, who wanted to break up with him for allegedly being too jealous. During the previous months, the man had been warning his fiancée about Fontana's ulterior motive for staying close to her despite their breakup. The two men had been introduced to each other before, which left an impression on Salvatore that the man was still in love with Carol. Despite the abruptness of her decision to end their relationship, Salvatore accepted it and continued with his life. But it wasn't just him who Carol was blowing off. Her son spent his birthday in February without her in attendance. Marco and his parents found this odd, as Carol visited every other week and always communicated with them about the child. When they messaged her about this, they received a reply that she was busy with a project in Dubai and had poor connection. Meanwhile, her parents and friends also received messages that she had decided to quit making content and needed some time alone. With this, her online account was suddenly abandoned. Strangely, she refused to answer any of their calls and only replied to WhatsApp messages. These replies were always curt and devoid of any information about her status. Finally, in March 2022, Carol had a highly anticipated performance at a club in Milan scheduled for the 11th to 13th. When she didn't show up, her co-workers knew something was wrong and reported her as missing to the police. Then, on the morning of March 21, 2022, a man was walking along a scenic roadside in the town of Borno when he spotted 4 garbage bags lying in a ditch. As a good citizen, he ambled down the escarpment to remove the unsightly bags, only to discover a horrific scene. There were thawing body parts scattered on the ground, while a hand with glittery nail polish was peeking through one of the bags. When the police arrived, they found more gruesome details about the remains. The body parts were cut into 15 pieces and were of a woman. Forensic experts examined them and concluded that the death had occurred around 2 months ago from a stab wound to the neck. They also observed that the body had been frozen before it was dumped in the cliffside area, and that there was an obvious attempt to make the remains unidentifiable by the removal and burning of the skin in some places where there possibly had been tattoos. The face was also disfigured. Fortunately, 7 tattoos remained partially visible, which the investigators compared with information from missing person reports in the area. However, when their search turned up nothing, the police concluded that the victim may not be from Borno. With this, they relayed the details of the tattoos to the media, hoping someone would recognize them. Among the tattoos still visible were the words "step by step" on the right ankle, "Wanderlust" on the right collarbone, and an inverted letter V on the inner thigh. Once the description was broadcast in the news, it didn't take long before law enforcement received information on the woman's identity. Several tips mentioned that the letter V tattoo was similar to the one the content creator Charlotte Angie had in her videos. Meanwhile, a local journalist, Andrea Tortelli, was assigned to the story of the unidentified victim and received the same information. He traced the screen name to the creator's real name, Carol Maltesi. Once he got a hold of her contact information, the journalist messaged her on WhatsApp about the similarity of the tattoos found on the victim to hers. He received a reply claiming that Carol was aware of the situation but assured the man that she was fine. However, when he pressed further and asked to hear her voice, Carol's account suddenly stopped responding. This raised alarm bells in Tortelli's mind, and he immediately reported his suspicions to the police, who were also investigating several leads. On March 29, 2022, Fontana came forward to the authorities to report Carol missing. He introduced himself as her friend and neighbor but claimed that she hadn't been in touch in a while. Additionally, he claimed to have seen her leave in her vehicle on the morning of March 20th and had not seen her since then, although her car had somehow been returned to their complex's parking lot. He decided to come forward when he saw the news about the remains found in Borno, fearing it may be Carol. Unknown to Fontana, the police had already been surveilling and investigating him since the journalist came forward days before. They first reached out to Salvatore after learning that he was Carol's fiancé, but after informing them that he hadn't been in contact with her since January, he gave them Fontana's name as someone who may know more about the victim's whereabouts. Furthermore, investigators had already seen footage of Fontana driving Carol's car on March 20, 2022, in the streets of Borno, close to where the body was dumped. After revealing this piece of information and pressing the man for more details, Fontana suddenly broke down and confessed that he had accidentally killed Carol while they were filming a scene following a client's request. According to him, they filmed 2 videos on the morning of January 11, 2022. While one of the videos was tame, the second one was violent and required him to tie her to a pole while her head was covered. Using a hammer, he hit her with little force on her body but lost control of his strength when he got to her head. When he removed the bag, he thought she was dead but was surprised when the victim moved. Instead of calling for help, however, he panicked and got a knife to end her suffering. He then planned on how to dispose of her body, first purchasing a freezer, saw, and axe on Amazon using the victim's credit card. He initially planned to burn the body on a grill, but when that was unsuccessful, he cut it up in the bathtub and stored the parts in the freezer. Once he learned that her co-workers had reported her missing, he decided to dump the remains off a cliff in Borno, a 2-hour drive from Rescoldina. Fontana also admitted that he gained access to Carol's phone and used it to respond to messages from her family and friends, even paying her rent to avoid suspicion. However, when the journalist began questioning him and asked to hear Carol's voice, he feared people already knew the truth, so he went to the police. Because of this admission, Fontana was arrested that same day on charges of aggravated first-degree homicide, dismemberment, and concealing a corpse. Investigators then searched his and Carol's apartments, where they found the pole, the freezer, and the same bags that had been used to hold the victim's remains. A luminol test revealed patches of blood in several areas, although Fontana had made an effort to clean the apartment. Furthermore, DNA samples taken from Fontana matched those found on the garbage bags in Borno. Upon learning of Fontana's arrest, Salvatore went to the police to give a statement, convinced that his gut feeling about Fontana had been correct. He now believed that it wasn't Carol who had sent the message that ended their relationship, but her jealous ex. He also did not believe that Carol's death was accidental, suspecting that it was planned after Fontana learned that Carol intended to leave Rescoldina and quit the industry for good. When the trial commenced on December 12, 2022, Fontana stood by his claim that the death was accidental. However, this was disproved when medical examiners testified that, despite the blows to her head, it was the stab wound to her neck that caused Carol's death. They believed that if she had received immediate medical help after the head blows, she could have survived, although they couldn't guarantee her neurological state. On June 12, 2023, Davide Fontana was found guilty of manslaughter and was sentenced to 30 years in prison, despite Carol's family calling for life imprisonment. The court ruled that Fontana had not acted with cruelty or premeditation, and viewed the case as an act of passion after learning that the woman he loved was leaving him, believing Carol had used Fontana for financial gain. This verdict drew strong reactions from Carol's family. Carol's mother issued a heated statement, feeling that her daughter was the one being judged instead of her killer. She pointed out that, despite Carol's profession, she was a good person who created content to provide for her son and support her mother's medical treatment. Marco, her ex, also defended her, arguing that had Carol been working a more conventional job, the court would have sentenced Fontana to life. In addition, Carol's father, Fabio, threatened on Facebook that he would wait for Fontana to be released, asserting that he did not deserve mercy. To add insult to injury, Fontana's lawyers filed an appeal for a further reduction in his sentence, claiming he was suffering in prison and was repentant. However, in a surprising turn of events, the judges reversed their decision and sentenced Fontana to life imprisonment, recognizing the premeditated and cruel nature of his actions. He was also ordered to pay damages to Carol's mother and son, totaling almost €350,000. While Carol's family was relieved by this development, they knew that the pain of losing her could never be fully healed. Carol was finally laid to rest in Sesto Caland, with the funeral attended by those who loved her. To support her son, who needed therapy after losing his mother at such a young age, Carol's friends launched a donation drive, with all proceeds going to the child. In Reskuldina, people expressed their support by putting white flowers on red benches and tying white ribbons on trees to protest the negative talk about Carol's lifestyle. Local officials stood with residents to condemn gender violence and social discrimination in the community. In 2020, Carol shared a video on Instagram to mark the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women, which quickly went viral. In the video, she talked about the psychological abuse she faced from other mothers who criticized her lifestyle. She encouraged women to support each other in fighting against this kind of judgment. Her supporters praised her message, condemning the man who had no right to take her life.